good evening, everyone. Don't know why this jingle's playing, but time is 8 p.m. as I said before, or 8:01, Monday, the 5th of July. And as I said, I'll be joined by two special guests, my head teacher and also Sophie Hudson, whereby we will be exploring her blog because I absolutely love it. And good evening to you, Iram. My colleague is in the chat, so hopefully you do call in, Iram, and join in with the conversation or pose questions. Okie dokie. So I'm really excited for today's show. As always, please do share the show, interact with us via the chat, or even better still, please do call in. And today we're just going to have an honest conversation about leadership with my head teacher, as well as Sophie's amazing blog. In terms of, I love her blog post about rejection. That's how I came across her blog actually, and then I started to explore her other blog. So her other blog post. I'm really excited to have her on board. So, Tony, are you with us? I don't think my head teacher is here with us right now. So, just to give you a bit of context, I work in a massive school in Barking. So we are 12 entry form school. So we teach from year 7 to year 13. And we have two campuses. So, as a head teacher, that is a lot to manage, especially in terms of the context of a context of COVID. So I think, my head teacher is here with us now. Hi, Tony.
Hi, Emily. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Hi. Okay. Thanks for inviting me on.
No, it's been a pleasure because, honestly, I've been at the school for 6 years actually. So both at least I've been in the school for 6 years, so I've seen 3 head teachers, and I must say Tony's the best head teacher I've seen. And the students actually know who he is. So that's no disrespect to the other head teachers. So I'm really excited.
Please, Emily, you're making me blush.
I'm really excited to have Tony on with us. So and Iram said I agree. So that's phenomenal. In fact, she tweeted when she was advertising the show that he is a true leader, a leader that I truly respect. So that is a credit. And I think another one of our hosts on Teacher Talk Radio was asked to pose a question about bullying in the workplace, and I read through the thread. She had about over 400 replies, and the thread was just really sad to read. And a lot of the bullying came from like SLT and the head teacher. And my school isn't like that at all because we've got a really high retention. Staff well-being is put at the center, which is great. And Tony's done an excellent job in terms of raising standards, but also implementing staff well-being. But he'll talk about that later on in the show. So welcome, Tony. Please do introduce yourself and your career journey, because obviously you didn't just start as a head teacher. So yeah.
No. I think for me, coming back to teaching is definitely coming back because I, as you know, I didn't start in teaching. I originally started when I left university. I actually was in catering. And I worked in restaurants for 3 years because obviously the career service did a fantastic job, and I came out of university with a really clear plan in place. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, and I just kind of drifted into working in bars and restaurants, and ended up working in a restaurant in Oxford. And then by chance encounter, I met someone who came in the pub one day and was having a chat in the bar, and he'd just come back from teaching in I think he'd been teaching in South America and doing TEFL teaching, so teaching English as a foreign language. And I just had this massive urge to travel, and I couldn't really see how I could do it because I didn't have the money. And this seemed like a great opportunity for me. And as a kind of a young boy growing up on a council estate, the idea of going to different countries was just not something that happened in my life. So I took a massive chance, trained to be an English teacher, and ended up in Tokyo for 3 years.
Oh, wow. That's so interesting.
So I spent a lot of time out in Tokyo teaching English, which was fantastic. I really enjoyed it, and I really got a kind of a buzz for starting to teach. And then when I came back to the UK, I started getting involved in what's called FMCG, so fast-moving consumer goods. I spent 20 years working in the food industry. I did a lot of things. For a couple of years, I made sushi for Tesco's and Sainsbury's.
Oh, wow.
And then I sold bananas, and when I say bananas, I mean
Oh, that's really
So
interesting.
and then I got to a stage in my life where my eldest had started school and my youngest was just about to start school. And because she's a summer baby, they weren't going to allow her to start school for an hour a day, building up to 2 hours a day when she started in reception. And I
Yeah.
wasn't particularly getting any satisfaction about what I was doing at work. This bit, my mum's going to come over, the lady across the road is going to pick her up at this bit, we're going to use a childminder for these days. And I thought, this is not going to be the experience that we wanted for a starting school. And
Yeah.
I wasn't particularly getting any satisfaction at what I was doing, so I took a bit of a career break and settled her into primary school.
Yeah.
um, so I became the only guy in the playground that none of the mums would talk to, because I was the dad that was dropping off. Which is a bit strange. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I started volunteering in the primary school, and I spent time reading with kids, which I really loved. And I spent time helping kids in classrooms as a teaching assistant.
Wow.
And I really enjoyed it. And I did think about going into primary school teaching.
Yeah.
But as because that is hard work. It really is, particularly because you're a quick kings and queens as my PGC, and ended up teaching at school in Hartford. And then I got onto a fantastic scheme which doesn't really exist in the same way anymore, which was the Future Leaders scheme.
Oh, wow.
And Future Leaders was just amazing. And through that, I got some really kind of concentrated development as a teacher, moved very quickly up, building on my life experience. And then 10 years later, I ended up at Barking Abbey.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so you've literally had like a humble beginning. So it
Mm.
wasn't like literally, straight cut, which I really like. And I like the fact that, and you've mentioned it to me before, that you're working class, you grew up on a council estate, and that's fed into your passion for education because you're very passionate about it. So that leads us on nicely to the next question, which is, what is your personal philosophy and values when it comes to headship and leadership, and why?
I think for me, there's a couple of things. I think I've always believed in the power of people. Yeah. And
Wow.
so I think you just have to accept that people of any age can do amazing things if you just let them and create the conditions for them to do that.
Yeah.
And that's why I've always believed in giving people opportunities and giving them the chance to try. So, I didn't have the best experience at school. I'll be honest, I was disaffected for a couple of years and I got in a lot of trouble at school. And it was
Yeah.
only through a couple of complete idiot. And so, I've always kind of taken it. It's that kind of, it's your role as an adult to give other people chances, particularly
Wow.
young people, and to believe in them even when they don't believe in themselves. So I think, you have to, particularly in our job, you have to believe that people can do better, and you have to believe that they can be amazing. And
Yeah.
then I think in the second job role, and as you know, I'm not. I don't think I kind of like. I don't think I believe the things that some head teachers believe, and I'm not really that kind of leader that a lot of schools seem to have. I think it's my role in a school to essentially get out of the way of great teachers.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
to
Yeah.
let you be a great teacher, but to give you all of those systems and support that allow you to be a great teacher in a great lesson.
Wow.
So that's why I'm very much about, as you know, and Niram does as well, about consistency, about
Yeah.
clear expectations on behaviour, just because, not because it's cruel, but just because it allows great teaching to happen. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's so
so,
true.
when you've got a clear behaviour system and when you've got clear rules and clear expectations for everyone, then the kids can enjoy the lesson, they can engage in the lesson, and the 29 pupils in the classroom can have a fantastic learning experience because the one has been dealt with and they're not monopolizing the attention for the other 29.
That's
Yeah.
really, yeah, that's true. I really
Yeah.
like that as well. And you really capitalize in terms of it's being subject specific. So departments do get, although we have a system, departments do get that sort of autonomy, so that
Mm.
the subject specific dimension doesn't get lost, which I really value as a middle leader as well. Um My next
Yeah, and
question,
obviously, if
yeah,
you're,
sorry.
depending on what kind of subject you teach,
Yeah,
your department, you're the expert at being an art teacher, you're the expert at being a science teacher, and so allowing you that freedom to teach the subject that you love with the passion that you have for the pupils, to engage them, to develop them, and to kind of continually teach them. That's the right approach, isn't it? I can't go into an art lesson and tell you how to be a great art teacher. I can give
yeah.
feedback on what great teaching is, and kind of the atmosphere you should aim for and the way you should structure your learning. But I'm not an expert on mark making or the tones or the shades or how you would kind of assess a piece of work at key stage 4 or key stage 5.
Wow, yeah,
Yeah.
but you are quite knowledgeable in the curriculum. I remember one time you came into my lesson on, when you monitor, and you were telling me facts about things in history, but I didn't know, and something about Hitler, because your daughter studied history at A level, well, studies
Yeah.
history at A level currently as well, and you're quite interested in that. And just the fact that you mentioned marks and shading in
Yeah.
terms of the art curriculum, I have no idea. Like, I haven't done art since year 9. So yeah, you seem quite well versed in terms of the various curriculums, at least at a basic level. Whereas I don't think most head teachers have that inkling about the various dimensions of um, the curriculum at a basic level.
Mm.
Um,
But you
yeah,
have to, the curriculum is what we do in the school. It's the most important thing that goes on in the school. Yeah. So the subject taught curriculum and the pastoral curriculum, those are the most important parts. So, as a head, you need to have a really good understanding of what is being taught at each stage. You don't need to be an expert, but you have to have those conversations to understand how the key concepts in maths progress, how it builds from 7 to 9, how, in terms of
yeah,
geography, what are the key assessment objectives, because otherwise you can't have those intelligent conversations with your teachers, and you can't
wow,
talk to them about the rigor and the depth. And so I've had lots of curriculum conversations over the year. Over the years, sorry, I was in a teaching and learning role for a long time, so I had the pleasure of watching. Christ, I must have watched well over 1,000 lessons in my career.
wow.
And you pick up little bits as each time you watch a lesson, and you kind of go forward. So you pick up little bits. So in that way, I guess I'm a bit of a magpie. I'm kind of stealing information from all these different places.
No, you're good, because I remember when I had and I actually spoke about that because we had a Twilight Joe, and you asked how do we actually use the data, and I didn't really think about about this. I'm a new middle leader, by the way, so I didn't really, I created this data sheet on Sims that we use to track our assessments, but I never really gave much thought in terms of how to use the data. And then, you shared that your nugget of wisdom in terms of actually using data for sharing good practice. So seeing what teachers' classes are, performing exceptionally well at a particular question,
Mm.
and then feeding that into department times as a like mini CPD. And I thought, oh yeah, that's really good. So I made a note of that, and I actually shared that idea in our departmental meeting today. So
Good.
thanks for that.
Yeah.
My
But the
next,
thing is,
oh yeah,
I mean, you have a lot of listeners and by the way, any teachers who are listening or anyone who works in schools, all I can say to you is just well done. Yeah, this year, oh my word, okay, you deserve every single second of that 6 week holiday, and I wish you all enjoy it to the absolute full, because just to make it through this year has been a hell of an achievement for everyone involved.
yeah, it has been. Yeah, it's been a
Yeah.
difficult one. And I wanted to. I think yeah, that is one of my questions soon in terms of, because this is your first year as a head teacher,
Yeah.
but then balancing that alongside COVID. I might as well jump to that question now. What has that been like? What has been, what has it been like to lead a massive school? Because our school is bigger than, the normal school. Through COVID, in your first sort of, your first headship, what's the latest time you've gone to sleep as well? Because I know for SLT and head teachers, it's been a really difficult time, and your holidays aren't necessarily your holidays. So yeah,
I don't know. I try and maintain. I think it's important that you get a really good work-life balance, and so I try and keep my work at work and my home at home. Okay, so when I come home,
yeah,
my time at home is my daughter's, my wife's time, and my time at school
wow,
is the school's time. Because if I'm working, 12, 14 hours a day, then that sets the wrong example for everyone else in the school.
wow,
And except there are times, we've just had a mock period, yeah. So I was up
yeah,
late a couple of nights marking my classes, and that's normal. But when you're doing that consistently every day, then something's wrong with what's going on in your organization. And so,
Wow.
you know, you are going to have times in the year where you've got a lot on and you accept you're going to have some late nights, you're going to work through the weekends. That's perfectly normal. But if it's consistent, then something's not right in the way that your work-life balance is structured. And
Yeah.
so I try and if people see me kind of firing off emails at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night or over the weekend, then I think that's the wrong example to set,
Yeah.
because I'd rather that the time that people spend in school is a quality time. So they're giving, it's hard work teaching. You need to be fresh, you need to be rested, you need to be prepared. And the worst thing is you've been up for 20 hours doing some mindless piece of data analysis, and then you've got to go and teach your classes the next day.
Yeah.
You
That's
know?
really, oh yeah, I really love that about, leading, for example, especially in work life balance,
Yeah.
because I feel like for me, in this year, first time as middle leader, I felt like I established my work life balance, but COVID literally took all the borders
Yeah.
away. So it's been a bit manic.
And I think starting in the school in September. So, when I came in September, I think that was my third time ever in the school.
Yeah.
I didn't even know where the toilets were, so it was crazy, And so I'm really fortunate in that we've got some excellent people in my school. Okay, so the SLT are just to a person absolutely outstanding, and they have just really been the ones that have powered us through this year.
Yeah.
We were talking at the beginning of the year, and I said, look, I don't know what this year is going to be like, but I think that just the key thing we need to do is look after the people. We have to make sure
Mm.
that we get through this together, and we recognize that some people can have a good time, some people can have a bad time, but we have to keep supporting each other as much as possible. And we
Wow.
have to keep making sure, because there's so much other uncertainty and disruption going on. We kind of saw it as our role to provide a bit of stability. So, in the absence, I mean, obviously, the government, as you know, gives us clear direction on an hourly basis, so we know exactly what's going on.
Yeah. Because
Not.
it's yeah, yeah. I was gonna say yeah, because that is last. I was gonna say it's. I was gonna say yeah, because that's literally
Yeah.
last minute. Because we know like the day before or the
Yeah, okay, yeah.
yeah,
So in the absence of that, I think it's our role as leaders in the school to give everyone in the school that clarity, to give
yeah,
them some dates, to tell them what's going to happen, because otherwise you're just passing that uncertainty on. Uncertainty leads to stress. And the last
yeah,
thing anyone needed in this year was more stress on top of the existing stress. So, we just took the lead and said, okay, right, forget what the government's doing. We're doing this. So everyone knows we're doing this. We're going to do this on this day. This will happen. This will happen. And most of the times we've got it right. A couple of times we've got it wrong. And we've held our hands up and we just said, fair enough. We didn't get that right. Let's move on and go forward.
yeah. I really like that, and that is leadership, and it leads on to my next question about what is effective leadership. What does that look like to you? Because I'm going to talk about I don't know how you manage a 12 entry school, and as you as my listeners, if I know you're listening, but you would have heard that Tony said that he's been marking his year 12s, and he teaches as well. He teaches a year 12 class. The year 12s love him. I asked the head of science, so Tony's a science teacher. I think your
Yeah.
specialism is chemistry, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's my boss.
Yeah, so I asked his head of department, what's it like managing the head teacher? And she was like, oh, it's great, and he has an open door policy, and I don't know if that's common in other schools whereby the head teacher teaches and also has an open door policy, and I really liked that. So in today's department meeting, I said that because of Tony's example, I said as of next year, I've got an open door policy, and anybody's welcome to come to my lessons anytime. The timetable, we've done our history timetable. Once that's confirmed, it will be shared again, and they're welcome to come anytime to watch, me teach. And I literally got that because of my discussion with his head of department, which is really weird. He's got a head of department, manager on that scale. But yeah, what is it? What does effective leadership look like to you, Tony?
I think with regards to that open door thing, I think, and the advice I give to anyone who's either in starting a leadership role or thinking about a leadership role is make sure your teaching is on point, because
Yeah,
people will look at you when you move into a leadership role, and some people will look because they look, and some people will look because they're looking for faults, they're looking to find faults. And I want to make sure that when people walk past my classroom, they see exactly what I expect in every other classroom, and exactly those high standards that I talk about all the time, because otherwise I'm not going to have any credibility. And so
mm,
I think that for me is the important part about being a head teacher as opposed to a principal. I think that's, I don't like the term principal, and I know that some people have it because that's what their school or their academy uses as the name. But for me, I'm a teacher and I happen to lead a school as well. So, and I
Wow.
think that's really important to me because I love teaching. Everybody knows that in those, it's only 2 hours a week. I wish I could do more, but I can't. But in those 2 hours a week, unless the school is literally on fire and you can't find the fire brigade, leave me alone, because that's my
Yeah.
class's time. Yeah, that's the time I
Wow.
spend with them. That's their time. Outside of that, I do my other job. That's what I kind of refer to it when I'm in the classroom. But I think
Yeah.
that's a really important part, because that's how I think you gain your credibility.
Yeah.
And then I think in terms of leadership, I mean, someone said to me a long time ago, it's about just getting people, empowering people to work in teams, and then supporting those teams to do really brilliant things. And so,
Mm.
I accept that I can't do everything in the school. As you know, our school is huge.
Yeah.
And often I'm surprised by things. I walk around the corner, someone tells me that something's happening. I'm like, oh, is it? Oh, okay. So, because there's so much going on and there's so many
Yeah.
wonderful things in the school that I can't be up to date with everything. So you have to have that trust in the people around you, and kind of give them the resources to work in those great teams, and then have that constant line management conversation with them to support them, and then make sure the teams are connected with each other. So we've
Yeah.
got, if you think about it, we've got our two heads of campus work as a team, we've got our two behaviour assistant head teachers work as a team, we've got two progress attainment assistant head teachers work as a team, and then there's the teaching and learning team. And it's about supporting all those different teams in the school to continually improve what goes on in the school.
Mm. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really yeah, that's great because as you know, I've mentioned before, we work in a massive school. Yeah, from what I've seen, it seems like you do a lot. Like you walk around the
Hmm.
school. Um, the previous head teachers, I never saw them, and it's those simple things that does something about with staff morale, head teachers' presence. And there
Hmm.
has been debate online about whether a head teacher should still teach or walk around the school, but you do that, and you do it on
Hmm.
both sides because I also teach at Longbridge and also Sandringham, so I've seen you on both. But how do you do it? How do you have time to walk around the school both sides, teach and lead? You also have attended CPD sessions, where you don't even have to attend, but you do that. And something that you said, I think it was last week at the HODS development meeting or the week before, you said, you are a classroom teacher at heart, and that really struck, you know, with me because
Hmm.
not many head teachers say that they're a classroom teacher at heart, and I guess that feeds into why you walk around the school and you still teach. Because when I also spoke to the head of science, she said you've never missed you've never missed a lesson. Like you're consistently always there. So yeah, how do you have the time to do all of that plus lead a school?
Well, it's kind of strange, because I think that's a really strange question,
Yeah.
because um, that's my job.
Mm,
That's the role, to my mind, that's the role of a head teacher, particularly in this year. It is to be visible, to walk around, to you're constantly making those micro adjustments, taking the temperature of what's going on in the school. Kind of one of my former mentors said it's management by walking around. Yeah. Which has always stuck with me. So you have those little conversations as you walk around. Okay, check in with people, see how they are. So there might be someone has had a difficult circumstance, and so I make a point, you check in with them on a weekly basis. How's everything going? Do you need more from us? How can we come and support you moving forward? But it also gives you a feel for, is there a group of kids that are bubbling up and you need to maybe have a conversation with someone else? Or can you see what's going on? Can you see the impact of some work that other people are doing? So I don't see it as making time for it. I see it as that's the important part, and all the other stuff, because believe me, there's tons of stuff that I could be doing that the borough, different organizations want to get you involved in. And I'm like, that's the secondary part. The most important part is spending time with the pupils, spending time with the teachers, walking around the school, and just kind of being that presence for the school.
wow. Yeah. Well, the
Yeah.
reason why I asked that question is because I've never seen it done before. So so that's what I'm just thinking. Why how have you got that time? So I guess that says a lot about the leaders that I've worked under.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why, that's why I've asked. So to me, it's like, oh my days, this is strange. This is like
Yeah. You
phenomenal. And
weren't the only one. There were lots of people the first couple couple of weeks who jumped when I walked into a classroom.
Yeah, and like the students really do know who you are. They're like, why does Mr. Rowe always come to our bubble? And I'm thinking, do you know who the head teacher was before? And they had to think about that. So um, it made them think. So but it is interesting. And I said before,
Mm,
it does something about, you having your presence there does something to staff morale, but also the students are aware as to
mm,
who actually leads the school.
mm.
Um, yeah, so I wanted to also ask, where would you expect our school to be in 3 years and why? Because, as we know, um, no, none of us as a profession and as a school we ever arrive. It's a continual
Mm.
development. So what are your, plans for the next 3 years?
I think for me, for the next 3 years, it's just about school this year, and I'm sure everyone who works in the school that's listening has the same feel. It's been a really dry, boring version of school. Okay,
Yeah,
it's just been like kind of learning in classroom and not much else. Okay, and so I want our school to get the heart back into it. So and we've sketched out what the school looks like, and what the school experience that we kind of want. So this idea that in the 7 years that pupils are with us, they go and see at least two Shakespeare plays. They go on some kind of outward
wow,
bound activity. They get to learn how to cook these various dishes. They get the opportunity to do poetry competitions, sports days, and all of these kind of experience. They get to go to a foreign country. All these experiences that we want every single child to be able to get. And we've kind of thought, well, we need to have a Christmas concert, we need to have summer sports days, we need to have dance clubs, we need to have chess clubs, table tennis, whatever. But that all of that richer life that's
yeah,
part of what the Greeks would have called the wider sense of education,
yeah,
the drama, debate, art, music, poetry, all of the creative side of the school. That's all been really, really boring over the past year. So it's about rebuilding that and reinvesting in that. Because for me, I think what I really want is, and I'll be honest with you, I'll let you into a bit of a secret. I've always had a bit of a chip. I've always had a bit of a chip on my shoulder about kind of when I've met people who've been privately educated.
oh yeah,
This
yeah, yeah,
this little bit. I know I might sound quite posh, but honestly, I'm a boy from the estates at heart, right? This little bit kind of goes, it's not fair.
yeah,
You
yeah,
had,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. And maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe I should. But what I want for our kids is I want them to go into an interview or meeting, and they're next to someone who went to Eton has had literally every opportunity in life. And I want the
wow,
person they're talking to not to know the difference. Yeah.
wow,
I want them to have that confidence. I want them to have that character, is what I'm talking about, that real
yeah,
authentic character, so that people can't tell the difference with them. And I want them to feel like they belong in those environments, that they can go and achieve that they can go in and they can be a barrister, irrespective of what their background looks like, where their parents come from, how much money their parents earn. They can walk into court on that first day and they can feel like they belong because we've given them that confidence in themselves, we've given them that character. We talked about
wow,
resilience. We've
yeah,
talked about the importance of eye contact, body language, standing up tall, being proud, all of those. So it sounds like a really simple thing, but it's quite hard to do all of that
yeah.
for 2,500 kids.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think like from when we had the HOD development day, something that was spoken about was that character education and how that should seep into the curriculum as well as the pastoral
Yeah.
curriculum, but more so the traditional curriculum through various subjects. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's a credit to the pastoral team that have worked through um at, I should say, the character curriculum, because now, whenever I get a bit shouty with my students and they're talking, my students now use that lingo with me and say, Miss Florencio, that's not the BA way, is it? So they clearly know what the BA way is. So that is
Yeah.
really, yeah, I think that's one of the um, biggest things that I've seen over the course of a year, that character education seeping not just in students' mannerisms, but also in their language as
Mm.
well.
And that's
Yeah,
why it's really important, and that's the hardest part, because I can walk down a corridor and I can have a conversation with a kid who's slouching, who's not presenting himself well, not making eye contact, talking in short sentences, all of those things that I would call not showing the right level of respect or not kind of behaving in the right way in that environment. Those are easy conversations, but it's making sure that all the other adults in the school do the same thing. and all the other adults in
Yeah.
the school actually say, do you know what? I'm going to talk to you about the importance of being on time and make a big issue out of the fact that you're consistently late, because I'm not
Yeah.
helping you by letting you be late every day. Okay. I'm not helping you by allowing you to be rubbish. Yeah. What I need to be
Mm,
doing is talking to you about the importance of it, supporting you. But at the same time, there's that idea you have high standards, but high standards means that you have high expectations of where they could be and you don't give up on them.
that's a really good point. Thanks,
Yeah.
Tony. Just for I see more people coming in. So please do post questions in the chat, or feel free to call in at any time to ask
Mm.
questions or to comment and keep the conversation going. And it would really help me out as well because I'm running out of questions and I've still got about 15 minutes left with Tony. So please do. Sophie, you're great. So Sophie's asked, how do you deal with having difficult conversations with middle leaders? Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Hi, Sophie. What do you mean by a difficult conversation?
Oh yeah, so I'll give you time to write that in
Yeah.
the chat, Sophie. So I'm presuming if like middle leaders not, I don't know, do the basic job. So she said you talk about giving all the input and confidence to teachers, but if they're not doing that, I guess with their department, how do you go about having those difficult
Mm.
conversations?
I think the key thing is you have to. I mean, to a certain extent, my role is I'm given chunks of money by the government in order to educate pupils, and so you have to bring it all back to the pupils. So be really clear about what you're talking to about and what the impact of what they're doing or not doing is having on pupils. And I think you just have to, have those brave conversations.
Yeah.
If they're not putting the work in, then you need to talk to them about the impacts that's having on the team, make sure they understand what it is. If there's an issue going on, then you support them, of course. People's lives can be messy at times, and often there's a reason why they're not doing um, what you need them to do. Or it could just be that no one's actually ever asked them and explained
Wow.
to them. Yeah. And I've been, since I've started, there's been, as there always is when you have a change in leadership, there's lots of things that need clarifying and
Yeah.
areas of practice that need tightening. And I've said on countless occasions, I don't care whose fault this is, and I'm not about blaming it. It's about how can we be better and how are we going to be better. And so,
Wow.
you just have to start with that. It doesn't matter, you have to assume the positive. You can't have a conversation with someone based on the premise that they're rubbish and you're going to tell them they're rubbish. You just have
Mm,
to explain to them the importance of what it is that they're doing, explain to them the impact of what they're doing, and then work together on how they're going to get better. And then if you get to a stage where you can genuinely say that you've tried as much as you can, then obviously then you have to make a decision as to which course of action you take. And I've done that on a couple of occasions, but I've done it knowing in the knowledge that I've given it the best chance. And now what I'm doing is I'm concentrating on the impact they're having on the pupils, the impact they're having on their colleagues around them. And so that's why I have to make those sometimes difficult decisions.
I love that, Tony. And I had a conversation with Tony. I think it was last week or the week before, about in regards to difficult conversations because I find them so awkward. I don't think I've had to do one this year, or maybe I don't know. But so I just hate difficult
Mm.
conversations. And Tony used the Women's Ed slogan back at me, and he said, "What is the Women's Ed slogan?" I was thinking, "Oh, I think it's challenge, something like that," because that was, but that, I got that wrong because that was the International Women's Day slogan. And then he actually said, it's actually 10% braver, and he used that back at me. I was thought, okay, it's literally about having those brave convers- conversations. So he was really helpful in terms of that. So thanks, Tony.
Yeah.
And Sophie just said, "Thanks, Tony. I'm having to do more and more, and it's tricky, and it all makes sense." Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you ever want to talk anything through Sophie, then Emily's got my number, so she can pass it to you.
Oh yeah. Thank you. And then Sarah's asked, what has been the biggest challenge you faced since becoming head? Also, what quality does someone need to become a head teacher?
Oh, jeez. Okay. Can I just say COVID?
Oh yeah. I think that was everyone's challenge, COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, no, I think that, oh gosh, I love being ahead. I genuinely love it. I love talking to pupils, and I love seeing the impact that, I came into teaching to make a difference in young people's lives, and then I moved up in teaching, so it allowed me to make more of a difference in more, just not just my own classroom, but you got more and more and more the kind of further up you went. And I love having conversations with people, talking through a strategy, coming up with a plan, then seeing it in action. So an example of that was, we started off, myself and Pete, and I think now's an appropriate time to give a huge shout out to Pete Flaxman. So he is, God, I don't think I could do the job with Pete without Pete, and I've made it very clear that if he ever leaves, then I'm leaving, because there's
Oh,
absolutely no way I
wow.
could run this school without Pete. He is an absolute legend, and
Wow.
he knows so much and is so capable. Couldn't have done even a quarter of the things that we've managed to do this year without Pete there as well.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and we were talking about, in terms of, what do we do between now, and when after the year 11s leave, before they come back? And we came up with the idea of having a taste a week, of bringing them in, because we know roughly what grades they're going to get. Okay, in secret, we
Yeah.
know actually what grades they're going to get, but I'm not allowed to tell you one. Um, so it was about kind of, and so we put together the idea of the taster week, so that we could pre-enroll them, because we know they've got at least the entry criteria, give them a focus for the summer, get some bridging work in, allow the teachers to have an opportunity to kind of pre-sell in the lessons, and also do lots of aspirational work. So I think we had 35 alumni coming in over the days, working with
Yeah.
pupils, and the idea of them seeing me in a couple of years' time. This is me in
Wow.
5 years' time. This
Yeah.
is me in 3 years' time. Yeah. And so, we had these conversations, and then a couple of weeks later, it's happening. Yeah. And
Wow.
all of this stuff is
Yeah.
going on. And so, that is the most amazing thing about our school, that there is such positivity, and there are so many people who want to change what's going on for the young people, and they want to make a difference. And so it's about supporting them and listening to their different ideas and trying to make those happen in the school. So I think that's the thing that I've probably enjoyed the most. In terms of the biggest challenge, I just think it's that, um, yeah, just dealing with the constant changing
Oh, yeah.
outside of school. So the constant
Yeah.
changing outside of school, so financial changes. There was the free school meals change, which I'm not going to talk about because it's not appropriate for me to swear, and I don't like to swear, but that was just essentially just a rape of school budgets for the government's sake. Okay, and that really, really
Yeah.
affected. We lost nearly £40,000 as a school, and that's forty
Wow.
thousand pounds I can't spend on pupils.
Wow.
And all of those kind of things, it's dealing with that, and then trying to protect the people in the school from what's going on outside, and give them clarity when I'm not getting it from outside. So I think that's the
Yeah.
hardest thing.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that, Tony. And you mentioned Pete before, who is the deputy head of the school, and it shows, as the importance of teamwork, which you mentioned about
Mm.
building those teams, and the fact that you recognize that is you know a credit to you as well. Um, and my next question is, what advice would you give to those who aspire to be head teacher? One day or in future, what tips would you give them?
I think, like I said before, I think make sure your teaching is really on point. Okay, make sure that you are secure as a teacher, because that is going to be the thing where I've seen people move up too quickly. It's the fact that their teaching is not sound has been the thing that's caused them to have issues, because they'll move up into a middle leader role, or a head of department role, or a head of
Yeah.
year role, and then their teaching will struggle, and then you're having to ask questions about their teaching practice, which, because they're not spending time on that, because they're concentrating on other roles. So I think that's the first thing for me.
Mm,
And then just try and develop a really wide understanding of the school, because you don't need to be an expert as a head teacher, but you do need to know about all aspects of the school. So if
wow.
you're a middle or senior leader and you've got extensive behaviour experience, get some solid curriculum experience. Yeah. So make sure you
Wow.
understand how the core departments work, how the curriculum is structured, get some understanding of how data is processed in the school and used. Like I say, you don't need to be an expert, but you need to be able to talk confidently to the people that you're going to hold to about their areas of expertise. I mean, you will have people in your school who are far better at anything than you can be, but you need
Yeah.
to be able to engage with them on the same level, and not just kind of come and say, well, I'm an expert in curriculum, but I have no knowledge of pastoral. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And I think the final part is, never forget what it's like when you start. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you know, the life of a brand new teacher in a school is hard. Yeah, when you don't have those existing relationships, when you don't really know what you're doing, when you're planning hand to mouth, you know,
Yeah.
and you're in that kind of, you know,
Yeah.
I'm teaching 18 hours a week and I'm planning 26 hours a week. You know, that is a hard thing. Okay, so don't forget what that's like, and so bear that in mind whenever you make decisions about workload. Okay, so whenever you do something,
Mm,
think about what's the workload impact of this, because the worst you can have is lots of systems and lots of changes that come in, and what you do is you end up increasing everyone's workload. People get frazzled, they tend to stop delivering. All of the little things start not happening in the school, and so then you get lots and lots of issues that build up just because the fact people are overloaded or they don't feel like they're feeling valued. Whereas
mm,
if you take the other approach and you look after people and you constantly remind them that you're doing these things, because people have short memories, you tend
yeah.
to get a lot more. Like, you know, a classic case in point. I think the proudest moment I had was that end of that first half term when
Yeah.
I said on that the end of the first half term we were going to give everyone free breakfast,
Oh, yeah,
and there was
yeah.
a huge round of applause and everyone cheered. Okay, and I said, great, and in return I'd really appreciate if you all come off site at the end of the day and help make sure all the kids go home on time, because what
Yeah.
normally happens at the end of term is the pastoral team gets stuck out there for an hour, and everyone else goes home early, and it doesn't seem fair. So we kind of said, I'd really love to invite you all to kind of walk to the shops, kind of make sure the kids go off home, because lots of staff presence will help them all disperse quite quickly so we can all go home and relax into our half term.
Yeah.
um, and I counted 58 people at the shops. It was bonkers.
Oh,
I
wow.
don't, I don't think we'd ever had that many people at the shops ever. Okay, it was so great to see everyone finishing together. And so many people who'd said they wanted to come but they couldn't come for various reasons. But it was really nice to feel that team spirit coming together. And
Yeah.
we've done that pretty much every single half term since then. We've had breakfast in the morning, and then we've all gone together at the shops at the end of the day to make sure the kids go home well.
I love that. And Sophie said, yes, I teach 22 out of 25 periods and have an hour to mentor a trainee. So um, she said that, she loves the aspect about never forgetting what
Mm,
it's like for a new teacher or teacher that teaches 22 or
mm,
more lessons on their timetable, which is great. And it's great that you still remember that and that is still your mind, because it's so
mm,
easy to forget what it's like at the very beginning.
mm.
And then my final question is, if
Oh,
you're
please no more. You've embarrassed me.
no,
You know,
no.
I don't like talking about myself. This is not my kind of thing. I don't think I'm a particularly brilliant head teacher. I think I'm just doing it the best I can in a difficult time. But
Sophie says you've been so great.
oh,
No, but honestly, because I don't know, any better, in my opinion, I think you've been great, to be honest. So, yeah, and Iram's testified to that as well in the chat, and on Twitter. And then my last question is, if your younger self could see you now, what would you say to him, or would he be surprised at anything, or yeah?
if my younger self could see me now, I'd probably say to him, "It's like this is what happens if you don't take enough exercise and you eat too much cheese." Okay, so that's the importance of keeping fit. But I think when I mean, I was very immature when I was younger, and there's absolutely no way I could have gone to university and gone into teaching, because I don't think I thought of myself. I wouldn't have been. Um, I would have thought I was older than the pupils I taught. So
Oh yeah,
I needed some time away from school to grow up, if that makes sense, and to come back into school. Okay,
yeah,
and some people are brilliant. You know, some people they go from school to uni and they go back into teaching, and
oh
they're
yeah,
absolutely fantastic at it. But that was not me. Okay, and so I would have said to him, take that time, travel. I mean, I've traveled extensively around the world.
oh
There's not
wow,
many parts I've not been, but take that time to really appreciate what the world can offer you and understand different cultures, because, you know, particularly, I mean, our school is such a diverse culture.
yeah,
And as you know, I'm a massive foodie. So for me, as soon as I find out where someone's from, my first question is, oh, what do you eat? Tell me how you make that. Okay. What's that
yeah,
taste like? Can you bring some in? Okay. Because I just see all the different backgrounds of all our different pupils and all the different staff in the school. It's just a great opportunity to share all these different ideas. And what are your religious festivals look like? That sounds interesting. That's really
yeah,
fun. Okay. And as you know, my wife's Indian, so I'm hugely into her culture and her food and all the festivals that go with that. And so
yeah,
the more I'm finding out about all the different children we have in the school and the different staff and telling me different stories, it's really good. So I think I would have said, take that time to travel, grow up, and really experience everything the world could throw at you.
Oh, I love that. And Iram in the chat has said, Barking Abbey School has a lovely culture. The children are the best part of it. Thank you so much, Tony and Emily. You need to get Pete on your show now. Both
Yeah.
Tony and Pete are great leaders. Now that's true, Iram. I need to get Pete. I'll see if he'll do it. I don't know if he will, but that's a good suggestion, Iram. Thank you. And then I had a question in mind before we do close the first segment, but it's kind of it's escaped me for some reason. So maybe you are in luck. And what's going to bug me is that I'll remember it later on, and I'll beat myself.
That's all right. I'm happy to
Um,
stay on.
oh yeah, please do stay
Mm.
on. I'm just gonna go on to a break. Break. I'm gonna hand it over to Megan to share the latest educational news.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News with Megan Goods.
This is your latest Teachers Talk Radio News. School skiing trips are set to be the latest casualty of the fallout from Brexit. The ski industry had previously warned of the loss of 25,000 jobs if British staff were unable to be hired post-Brexit. The issues for school ski trips arise from the number of British staff normally hired to run the trips, and the increasing cost of hiring such staff with the introduction of the visa system. Robert McIntosh, Managing Director of Interski, calculated it would cost him £300 for each of his 600 British staff members to continue to run the number of ski trips he had done previously. You don't have to be an economist, he stated, to know that is not going to be viable. MP Ben Bradshaw has accused Gavin Williamson of using his latest campaign to ban mobile phones in schools as a distraction. Bradshaw called it a clumsy attempt by the worst education secretary ever to distract attention from the chaos engulfing our schools because of the COVID rules and his failure to come up with a proper catch-up plan for pupils. Jeff Barton, General Secretary of the Association of School and College Leaders, also accused the Education Secretary of being obsessed with mobile phones in schools, when in reality, every school will already have a robust policy on the use of mobile phones. It isn't some sort of digital free-for-all. This all follows Williamson's call last week for a ban on mobile phones to create a calmer environment in schools to help children recover from the pandemic. A government memo leaked from Michael Gove's office has laid out 5 proposals for how schools will work moving forward through the pandemic. The plan contained a proposal to end the bubble system of isolation on the 19th of July, and to replace self-isolation for close contacts with daily testing instead. The twice-weekly lateral flow testing would also be reviewed in September, with the potential to be scrapped the following month. Only children who had tested positive for the coronavirus would be isolating by September, and there would be a push to make sure all teachers were vaccinated. However, a spokesperson for the government said no final decisions have been made on the leaked proposals. That was your latest Teachers Talk Radio News.
Creative Resources, made for teachers by teachers. At Creative Resources, we've been rethinking what a classroom can be. We've created a huge range of more than 2,500 original and exciting resources that span across more than 15 different subject areas. Whether you're looking for primary or secondary level resources, careers options, PSHE, arts or humanities, Creative Resources have the resources for you. We offer full curriculum packages and unique, challenging escape rooms themed on topics such as Shakespeare, Tudors, and fractions. We have quizzes, task cards, Tarsier puzzles, and lots more. Better still, more than 100 resources can be accessed for free. Just visit our website www.cre8tiveresources.com. You can get 10% off any order you make on our website by using discount code TTRadio. Creative resources made for teachers by teachers. Every teacher loves stationery, right? Imagine getting a selection of fun, beautiful and unique stationery items designed and selected especially for teachers, delivered through your door every month. You need to check out teacherslovestationery.club.
I'm always so excited when the box arrives. It's such a treat.
My Teachers Love Stationery Club box is just a little treat to myself every month.
It's always full of delightful and surprising items, including some really good quality stationery brands like Faber-Castell and Stabilo.
And because you never know what you're going to get, it makes it even more fun and special when you get it.
It feels really great to be supporting a family business that's run by real teachers. I can't help feeling like they just know what I'm going to enjoy using stationery-wise better than I do myself.
Visit teacherslovestationery.club and enter the code TTRadio when you buy your first stationery box to save £2 today. teacherslovestationery.club. Introducing the Leadership Masterclass series by Diana Osagi. Learn how to ditch your fears and develop your leadership confidence. How to deal with difficult colleagues. How to thrive when you lead in a challenging environment. And how to get colleagues to buy into your vision. Join Diana for her online leadership masterclasses starting on the 10th of July and running all the way through the summer. These sessions are the perfect way to prepare and refresh for the next academic year and beyond. Book your place at courageousleadership.co.uk/events now. The first 50 leaders to sign up get an additional free mini coaching session with Diana herself. Don't miss this. Courageous Leadership Masterclasses at courageousleadership.co.uk/events.
Welcome back, everyone. So hopefully you've had a bit of a break and you have grabbed something to eat. So the first half of the show, I interviewed my head teacher, and I just remembered before I move on to Sophie what I was about to say, because Tony spoke about the diverse cultures in our school, and I know Tony signed up as a head teacher and signed up school to race and social justice group. Do you want to quickly expand on that, Tony?
Thanks for that.
Sorry about that.
I think it's just about, as there's a couple of head teachers within the borough that recognise that, I think essentially we want our pupils to be better at talking about things, which could be racism, which could be gender identity, which could be sexuality, which could be lots of different things. But often in the schools, the adults aren't very good at talking about these things either. So it's about recognising that the adults in the school need to be a bit better at talking about everything, recognising that we need to be as inclusive as possible for our student and staff experience, and recognising that we need to support as many different people as possible on their journey up to leadership, and looking at people who've got non-traditional backgrounds or who need a bit more encouragement or a bit more support to go through, so that our middle and senior leadership start to better reflect the diversity that's in our student population and our teacher population. And I think it's important that our school takes quite a leading role in that, and I'm really pleased with some of the other heads are working on it. We've got some really ambitious ideas. We've learnt some fantastic example. There's a brilliant project that's been going on in Newham for the past year. I think Tower Hamlets are also really proactive in this, just about kind of looking at areas of the school that need improvement, or areas within the borough that need improvement, and trying to work proactively in that. And I'm so pleased we've got so many people in our school on board already, and I'm really optimistic about moving forward with this.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I thought I really wanted to share that because I've never heard of a group like that before, and I thought it was really interesting. So thank you so much, Tony, and feel free to chip in terms of the conversation with Sophie. So welcome, Sophie. How are you?
I'm all right. Last day of self-isolation, so.
Oh, how's that been going?
Oh, it was just a night. Well, it's been all right. I've been having to teach my lessons from home, which
Yeah.
is not like Microsoft Teams and like a cover teacher like streaming me into the classroom and me being like, Maisie, stop talking. Oh, it's been okay.
Yeah.
But I would so much rather been in school. I was kind of begging my head teacher to let me come back, but he was like, no, you need to stay off.
Yeah, it's
Um,
difficult, teaching from home, and actually you just get that, that life in the classroom. I just
It
love
was
being in the classroom.
it was
Yeah.
easier on Thursday and Friday when everyone in my house has been away and I was on my own. But like today, I had my sister and my mum working
Oh,
next door, and I'm
yeah.
there like, Sarah, can you just be respectful to Miss? And they're like laughing from outside. I can just see the messages pop through my phone, being like, "You sound like such a teacher," and I'm like, "Yeah, kind of is my job." But yeah, I'm just ready to come back to school tomorrow. It's been, yeah, it's not
It's been
been that fun.
interesting. Yeah. Oh, thanks. So do you want to introduce yourself and what you
Yeah.
do for those listening?
So I am a history teacher and history and politics teacher. I am just finishing my 3rd year. I teach in Northwest London, so the borough of Hillingdon. I am head of Key Stage 3 history as of like 2 weeks ago. I'm from Leeds originally. But I've lived down in London since I was 14, so about 12 years now. So I feel a bit like still got a Yorkshire accent, but I feel very southern in a lot of ways as well.
Oh, thanks for sharing. And yeah, so I came across Sophie first and foremost during I think it was the first lockdown, and your
I
tweet
only
went
got Twitter
viral.
in my I
Yeah,
got Twitter in the first lockdown.
yeah,
And I had a couple of like semi-viral. One was through the EduDate, so I had one like semi-viral thing through, and I got loads of followers. And then it must have been January the 1st when everyone went crazy with lockdown,
yeah.
and I posted a thread on top
Teams, how?
tips for
Yeah.
Microsoft Teams,
So that's how I came
and
across you through that,
yeah, I
through
think
Microsoft
that
Teams.
tweet
Yeah.
got like 1.2 million
Oh wow.
like expressions. Like I've
Yeah.
never looked at the algorithms of Twitter before until that one, and I was like, I literally went to bed at like 2 a.m. that night because I was just like, my brain was like blown up.
Right. Yeah.
And I was on 10 days recovery of COVID. I had got COVID just 23rd of December. So I was still kind of not really with it, and I went to bed and I woke up the next morning and it was like blew up to the point where people I'd done teacher training with were like messaging me going, "So someone's just shared a tweet of yours," and I was like, "What?" So that was crazy. But yeah, so I started doing like daily tweets to Microsoft Teams because I don't know, I feel like I'm very much of the mentality that a problem shared is a problem halved. If I can share
Yeah.
something that I'd been doing for a while on Teams, we did Teams during the first
Lockdown. Yeah.
yeah, so like when we start, when the kids came back, the year 10s and year 11s and 13s,
Yeah.
the year 10s, it was year 10s and 12s then. And that's when we started doing some remote lessons, not full timetable, but 2 lessons a week for each of the year groups. And I was probably the most technological savvy in my department, so I just kind of did them. And I did those ones, and I just got a handle on it. And I was really nervous about doing them, and I'm someone that's quite comfortable with technology.
Yeah.
And I could just see everyone on Twitter like exploding, like panicking, full provision of teaching from tomorrow. Like I could just see this anxiety rising on Twitter, and it just it upset me because I was like, okay, these guys, it's not that bad. Like once you do it, it's not that
Yeah.
bad. And I kind of just wanted to say, these are some of the things that I could share with you, and because I think sometimes like, talking about it, sharing with it, is easier, right?
Yeah.
Myself, I just got a notification saying my self-isolation finishes.
Oh, that's amazing.
The
That's
NHS
that's
app.
great. That's great news. Yeah, because I
Oh,
don't know. I would hate, being cooped up at home. I don't know how
oh,
you've been doing it, and yeah, in terms of your, sharing that
mm,
tweet, that's how I came across you, and I started following you from there, and then you started blog posting, but I only read your blog actually when you shared a post on rejection, and that's when I literally
yeah,
bought in and became a regular reader from your blog. So you do have key pieces that have really
mm,
resonated, not just with
teachers, but
teach, because you make, you humanize the teaching
It's
profession, because
interesting. It's interesting, the ones that seem to really resonate with people. So I'd probably say about 3 or 4 that people have really like shared widely, and
let me share my top 3 actually. So
which
number
ones
one
are yours?
is number 1 from your blog, 'cause I do love your blog, is rejection.
Uh-huh.
Number 2 was the weight, losing weight,
Yeah,
gaining weight
yeah.
again, because I actually lost 2 stones during the first lockdown, and I need
Oh,
to
wow.
lose but I've actually put it back on again. So
Yeah.
not it all, but just once,
No,
about 10
I get
pounds to
you.
1 stone, so I need to
Mm,
use that again. And also teaching boys is
mm,
to teach well. I really
yeah.
liked that one. So to teach boys is to teach well, because sometimes we
Mm,
try to differentiate how we teach boys and girls,
yeah.
and it's never made
Isn't
sense to
this?
me.
Yeah,
It's just literally great teaching.
yeah, yeah.
So I really liked that.
No, it's funny. I think they're all kind of things that. So I've taught. So I've taught at the same school as I have for my NQT year. So I actually applied to my so the rejection post. I applied for a job that I was kind of in a bit of a rut. I don't know about you, Emily, living in London. Like, I live with my parents. I just wanted to move out. I wanted to,
Yeah,
and I just felt like, I can't afford to do it in London. Like, I can't afford it. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go back to Yorkshire. I was like,
yeah,
why not? Right, I've got friends in London, but not friends necessarily in my borough, like, near me. So I was like, why not just do something drastic? So I applied for this job, and I felt like, a lot of signs were, I'm not unhappy at my school. I just feel like, I've gone for quite a few little promotions and not got them, and I've, felt a bit deflated from them. And
mm,
I applied for this job, and I didn't have anything back. And I don't know about you, it generally was transported back to university applications when you're
yeah.
checking your emails every 13 seconds.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And you're like waiting for UCAS to tell you if you've got in and you've got in. And I would say 2.5 weeks, I was just checking my emails to see if I'd heard anything from the school. To the point where I was like, actually, right, it said interviews were week commencing this week. It is the first week back so it was March,
Yeah,
the first week back that schools were back after lockdown. So I was like, oh, maybe they're doing it the week after. So, I waited till the week after. Sent this email saying, just wondering if you'd shortlisted yet. And I got an email saying, yeah, they've shortlisted and you've not been successful. And I was like, okay. So it took me probably about 5 days to do that application, like in
yeah,
every spare moment of every spare second of every spare day. And it just really, I could see my trainee applying for jobs and how much effort, and, even me reading his application, and they didn't even tell me that I'd not got it. I had to contact them.
yeah.
And it just took me back. I did apply to a school before the one I'm currently at, and didn't get it. And I didn't get it from the interview.
Oh,
And I
same with
remember
me.
this
Yeah,
rejection. Oh,
yeah,
and but I went to that school,
yeah,
and I felt this double whammy. I was like, I messed up on the interview lesson. Like I'd saved over the wrong PowerPoint. I had a blank PowerPoint in my interview lesson.
Oh,
So I could blame it on that, right? But
yeah,
I was like, they know me and they know that I can do better than that, and they've still rejected me. And
yeah,
I just think in teaching, I've got a friend that you might also fall into it, a history teacher, who's just, since I've met her on Twitter, she's just been applying for job after job after job after
oh
job.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it
Yeah,
just breaks my heart, because every time it's like, you're really good, but there's just someone better on the day, or there's some, and I don't want to
yeah.
speak out of
I
turn, but
know.
there's so many teachers in my
Yeah.
school that I'm just like, oh my
Oh
god.
yeah.
And there is a crisis in teaching, but there is also another crisis of teaching that people don't know about, which is
Yeah.
all the people that didn't get jobs this year because of COVID that are still working on long-term supply.
Yeah. Because I identify a lot with what you said, because before I applied to my current school, I had a dream school and I applied there and I didn't.
Dream schools.
Yeah, and I didn't get it, but I kind of feel, and I was so crushed. And I remember I actually applied to do my PGCE at Cambridge, and I really wanted to do my PGCE at Cambridge. And I got an interview, and I was literally in bed for a whole week because that was just my dream place to do my PGC. I
Yeah.
always wanted to go Cambridge, be taught under Christine Council.
Yeah, yeah,
um, yeah, but it was just a redirection for me, to be
Mm.
honest, because I went to the best. I had the best first placement. I hate my second placement in Manchester, so I trained
So
in
did you go to
Manchester.
you trained in Manchester?
No, I didn't go to Cambridge actually, but I'm gonna tell a funny story.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
I've got I went to Manchester and I met amazing people at my first placement school. Literally, they taught me most of the things I know today. And I'm working in a school that I'm very happy at. So again, it's that redirection. And my line manager and my ex-hod actually trained in Cambridge under Christine Council. So I've also
Yeah.
I kind of got that kind of development through her as well, even though I didn't train in Cambridge. So I guess everything works out for
It's
our advantage.
yeah.
And I just wanted to ask Tony
Mm.
from a head teacher's point of view,
Mm.
Tony, if you're still there, how would you advise people going through like rejection in terms of applying for jobs?
Oh, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
and I was there quite a few times with some of my applications, and the worst thing is when you kind of get you find out that an internal candidate got it, and you're just like,
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
Oh, that was a
and,
waste of
What's the
time.
point?
yeah,
Mm.
and I get that there's a process, and you have
Yeah.
to kind of you have to go through that process, but I think you just have to stay positive, and kind of treat every single one as its own one. I think
Yeah.
the worst thing is when you get into that chain and you're just banging off. Right, I did 20 today, and you end up just sending out 20 loads of rubbish.
Yeah.
Rather than just a couple that you really do your research and really get to know the school, and then just recognise that if you get the interview, that means you could do the job, and if you don't get the
Wow.
job, it means you didn't fit the culture,
Yeah.
or you didn't fit the school. So it's not a personal thing. It's just that what they were looking for was not what you
Yeah.
were looking for at the same time. But you could clearly do the job. Otherwise, they wouldn't have interviewed you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it can be kind of difficult to kind of stay positive, but as I said at the beginning, I'm a great believer in the power of people and staying positive. And so you have to just pick yourself up and try again.
That's a good one. Thanks, Tony.
Yeah.
Sophie, did you want to add anything to that, or?
I think my thing is that I agree with everything you're saying. Is that on the blog I mentioned about how I went to this school and I didn't get it, and I remember driving back to Oxford to I did my teacher training in Oxford, and driving down the M40 and just having to pull over on the motorway because I was crying my eyes out so much.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, and then I look back on my life and realize how privileged I was. I'd never
Yeah.
really failed at anything. Like I failed. I failed
Yeah,
my French
yeah, I know what you mean.
GCSE, but I'd not been rejected from anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I know what
like
you
I'd
mean.
got into university, I'd got into I got my A levels, I got my GCSEs, I did all of that, and I any job I'd applied for, I'd not gotten them from applications, but as soon as they interviewed me, they I could sell myself. I'd
Yeah.
written off my applications to Primark and Hobbycraft and all those, and not had anything. But as soon as I interviewed in person, I got my jobs, and I realized actually that this is what I needed. I needed
Yeah.
that rejection. I sometimes talk to the kids, so I'm kind of I grew up a Christian, and I now work at CV school, and they have every year, and I often talk to the year sevens, and I say, I tell them the story, and I say, I interviewed at Hayden and I didn't get it, and I was so
Yeah.
gutted, and I prayed for it, and I thought it was the right thing for me, and the equivalent of like a dream school, and I thought
Yeah.
it was exactly what I wanted, and I didn't get it, and I cried, and I felt like it's the whole session was about prayers and unanswered prayers, and
Yeah.
I said, but then 2 days later I got an interview for here,
Yeah. Wow.
and if I hadn't if I'd have got offered that job, I'd have accepted it, and I would have said no to Bishop Ramsey, and if I'd not done that, then I wouldn't be here teaching you guys, and I wouldn't have made all these friendships, and I wouldn't be, I wouldn't be with you here. And they're like, oh, Miss, it's so great, and I say, sometimes the route that you take isn't the route that you think it's going to be, but it doesn't mean it's the
That's so
wrong one.
true. Yeah.
And I think even if you're not someone that's Christian or whatever faith you are, even if you don't have a faith, like I think you can still see the route and the path that you take is kind of getting somewhere, and sometimes you have to like just believe. It's very hard sometimes believe that there's a path
Yeah.
that's right, but it's hard, but I think everything
Yeah.
happens for a reason ultimately, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's so true. And I can definitely see that in personal journey, because every sort of rejection that I've had, has been literally a redirection.
Yeah, I like
And
that.
yeah, and like actually I realized that I needed that redirection because I don't know if I would have been happy
Mm.
if I
I'm so,
chose my pathway.
I went for head of department last March and
Yeah.
didn't get it, but I got what I get every single time in the last 2 years, and I've gone for everything. It's like, you're amazing, you interview so well, but you don't have the experience that the other candidate has. But my head of department now is absolutely amazing, and I've learned so much and I've grown so much with her, and she's really like given me opportunity, and also COVID, and I'm so grateful. Like I keep joking to her, I'm so glad you got it over me and you have to deal with all this work.
Yeah.
And as you see, like and that's what my deputy head tried to say to me. It's like, I really feel like you're going to learn from this person. I really think you're going to develop under her. And, it was, and I now see all of that. And I saw it within the first 2 weeks she was there. I was like, no, I'm definitely learning under her. And I don't know, do you know Simon Beale?
Yeah.
So she used to be like his line manager. And it's like, all
Oh
these kind of
wow.
connections. And I walked into, a bit like you did with Christine Council, I walked into school and I had a teacher observing me on my interview at my current school, and they said, do you know Catherine Burns? And I was like, oh yeah, she's my mentor. Like she's my mentor. And I was like, she trained me when I was at IOE. Can you tell her that I'm like head of year
Wow.
now? And that I was head of history. And I was like, yeah, of course. And this is like a middle-aged man going like, can you tell her that I'm like, have done well, that I've succeeded?
Yeah.
And I was
Oh
like, yeah.
wow.
And I went home and
Yeah.
I was like, Andy, I met Andy, and he said that he wanted to tell me. He was like, oh yeah. And Catherine was like, oh yeah, I followed everyone. I know what they're doing. And it's just so great. Like I feel like you have to look back on those things. I think like the connections and the route that you take is for a reason. And I don't know. You have to be poetic about it, or you'll go
You'll
down
just
the rabbit hole.
crush. Yeah, that's so true. And obviously we have to, like Tony spoke about earlier before, about being good role models to students. And one of our like characteristics in the school I teach in is resilience. And if we
Yeah.
can't demonstrate resilience, in our own personal lives, it's hard to kind of exude that and be an example in front of our
true,
students.
and I think it's talking to students about it. Like I'm very open with my kids about like my anxiety and like panic attacks and stuff that I had like the worst panic attack I've had in years on Wednesday.
Oh wow, sorry about that.
No, it's fine, but like I had a year 10 boy who's been really struggling come and see me in the morning, with his head of year, and they were saying, I'm going to name the person Jack. He's not called Jack, but Jack's really struggling. He doesn't want to come to lesson, and I just want to reassure him that you're not going to pick on him if he has a question. His anxiety is quite bad. And I was like, of course, Ben. And I said, I'm having a really tough day today. Like I feel like, and he was doing hand things that I do when my anxiety gets bad, and I was like, I've been doing that all morning as well. Like, my anxiety, I feel like I'm on the verge of having a panic attack. And he was like, oh, me too, miss. And I was like, you know what? I think we can try and get through it together, right? And he was like, yeah, we'll do it, miss. And we kind of said, if we feel like we're in lesson, we're on the edge, we'll look at each other and we'll get through it.
Wow.
And this is a 15-year-old boy.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes being human to these kids, like,
yeah,
I'm an oversharer. I can't help it. I do it with I do it in Twitter. I do it in my blogs. I do it with the kids. But I have kids come to me mid panic attack and they go, Miss, I need someone, and I feel so privileged. But they know that I know what it's like, right?
Yeah.
So they can get them, and I don't think my colleagues have ever really understood until they saw it on Wednesday, and it was just coupled like my flat purchase fell through on Wednesday. I'd been on the verge of just horrible, like my anxiety had been through the roof, and then I got the self-isolation text, and I got this self-isolation text that said I had, and I was like, I can't do this, and I just couldn't breathe. Like it was horrible, it was scary. I've not had one of them since my Incatia, really. And my colleagues are watching, like there's only two of them, and one of them, and it's not as close a relationship, and she's someone that's always kind of gone, oh, that person's got anxiety, and like like belittled it a little bit. And I think I actually put it in perspective for her to see me literally my head in my knees, like trying to breathe, like struggling to breathe, right? But I'm so open with the kids, and I think like with resilience, with rejection, with any of these things, I think talking about it. And it's funny, whenever I share anything on Twitter, I get a lot of DMs, and I get a lot of people saying, if you want to talk about it, talk to me. And I'm like, you know what, I've got so many people I talk about it with, and it's great, and
Yeah.
I feel all that connection. But for me, it's like I have so many people on Twitter that DM me and go, "Thank you." Like,
Wow.
you've taken the words out of my mouth, right? I'm going for exactly the same thing. You've articulated in a way that I've not really ever been able to, or
Yeah.
this is what's worked for me. I wonder if it'll work for you. And I can't even tell you, like, and it makes me sound like I'm being cocky, but like the amount of people that have DM'd me when I've posted something that's like I've rewritten 10 times thinking that this is too much, just
Yeah.
oversharing.
Yeah.
But it matters. It's like
Yeah.
representation matters in all forms, whether it's kind of people that look like you, whether it's people that are going through things like you, that are people like representation matters, even if it's like mental health issues, even if it's like,
Yeah.
struggling living at home, or struggling with workload, like all of that.
Yeah.
Just if it makes one person feel less alone, I'll keep oversharing.
Yeah, it's just that, and I think that's why I really do connect with you and your blogs, because you really do, you just humanize the teacher profession, and um, we all go through it, and
Yeah.
as sometimes teaching is a bit of a performance. We have to like
Mm.
put aside everything
It's
that we're going
acting.
on at home.
It's
Yeah,
acting.
yeah,
I've said this
literally,
before to my
and
parents. It's like theatre. You're like stood up at the front performing every
yeah.
period. It's so true, Emily.
Yeah, yeah, and literally you have to put that aside and
Mm,
just get on with the job. And for me, like for example, I had real big family issues over the course of a year or two. And but for me, I saw work as escapism. It's kind of like my drug. So that's why a lot of people say I do so much, I do so say I
yeah,
do so much outside of school and in school. But for me, that's kind of my drug. It's my
I
escapism.
love it.
And
Like,
yeah, I just immerse myself in it, because if I don't, I'm
mm,
gonna be thinking too much, and
yeah,
if I think too much, I'm gonna start crying, and I don't cry.
yeah. Oh, I cry. I'm a crier.
Oh,
I'm
I hate
literally.
crying.
I am honestly such a crier. It's actually ridiculous. I cry when I'm tired. I cry when I'm happy. I cry when I'm sad. Like, but you know what? I think it's I I love teaching. Like, I wouldn't do
Yeah,
anything else.
same.
I couldn't do anything else. And I think even when I'm having these tough times, even when and I think what's been amazing for me is that I've had a tough time in the last year with teaching, right? My workload's intense. I mentioned that earlier in the show with kind of
Yeah.
3 frees, a trainee, like my workload's been intense. No repetition of classes either. I teach 7 to 13, 3 different subjects.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
and that has been really tough. But what's been crazy in the last month is, no, last 3 months, really from Easter, is that teaching's like been fine. Like teaching's been
Yeah.
my like constant, which is like really the workload should have increased, but because I had my trainee building up his hours and taking my classes, and then my year 11s and 13s left, so I've got those frees back, and it's intense. We've got year 10 and 12 mocks and marking and data, but I've got
Yeah.
frees to do it in. It's been all my like outside of work stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, my mum said to me on Friday night, the Thursday night, she was like, bad things happen in 3, Sophie. So you just have to remember that, Wednesday, my flat fell through. I've lost about £1,500, but it is what it is. It's not like, I've got I haven't, but you know what I mean. And then self
Yeah.
isolation. And then on Thursday, because self isolation, I was meant to have a job interview on Thursday. My trainees last 2 days, the new trainee coming in today. And I was just like, oh, so stressed. I had the interview over Zoom on Thursday, then didn't get it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it took a while, but I feel like yesterday, maybe the day before, was when I started to feel like myself again, this massive
Yeah.
burden. And I was saying on Twitter, it feels like I've had this burden on my shoulders for quite a while.
Yeah.
And it feels like that's now lifted, whether that's, now that I'm out of the flat purchase, and I know it was the right thing to do. It was just rubbish when it was happening.
Yeah.
And now, I feel like I can breathe again. It sounds really like
Yeah.
dramatic. But that's me. And I'm just like,
What advice would you give to someone that is going through, so many things in their personal life, but has to come to work day in and day out? What advice would you give in terms of helping them to overcome and being the
I think
best
it's
like teacher?
I think it's realizing why you're there in the classroom, right? So
Yeah.
for me, I have the people I can speak to about work, and you know, sometimes I did have to make those phone calls and work, and my line managers are fantastic that, you know, I had to ring the lawyers, I had to ring them during work hours. But there was just, my classroom was all, and we talked about this I think last time, wasn't you, Shay? Like, my classroom is my safe space, right?
Oh yeah,
And
that's
it
on your
was you,
blog. You've got a
yeah,
blog
but it was
post on
you
that.
telling
Yeah.
me, it was actually you that inspired me to start the blog, actually, because we talked
Oh,
about it. And it is my safe space. And even though I don't have my classroom right now because of COVID and we're still moving around, I love being in the classroom, like whether it's
yeah.
actually an MFL classroom or it's a, you know, English classroom. I love being that person that can, like, you know, I'm not saying all my lessons are inspiring, they're definitely not.
Yeah,
Um,
same.
but I'm there for them. I'm in the
Yeah.
classroom. You know, I try and plan as many lessons as possible that the kids will enjoy and engage with. And I'm having so much fun redesigning our curriculum. And it's interesting
Oh,
talking about kind
same.
of the race, you know, the race project at our schools. One of our like agendas this year has been kind of how can we respond to the Black Lives Matters movement within our context of our
Yeah.
school, because we have a really interesting makeup, because it's a C of E school of
Yeah.
I'd say it's interesting, even just going from 7 to 11. I'd say, yeah, year 7 intake is maybe a third white, a third mixed race, and a third Afro-Caribbean or
Oh,
African,
interesting. Yeah.
because of the nature of a CB school. So we have, you know,
Yeah.
we're talking about culture. We had a culture day, and we were talking about where our culture from. And I had a little boy that was saying that, you know, his dad's from Manchester, but his mum's from Jamaica, and his mum can
Yeah.
do a really good Jamaican accent, and people keep, you know, he's the cutest little button in the whole entire world. And he's saying, everyone tells me that Jamaica has to be my culture, but it's not. I'm English.
Oh
And we're
wow.
doing that.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
were doing about British Empire, and I was saying, you know, I was trying to incorporate this. We have to do culture lessons. I was like, you know, talking about the empire, and, you know, what do we consider British that actually, you know, fish and chips is from Portugal and all this stuff. And I was like getting all these kids. I was like, where is your culture from? And I had a little boy saying, well, my brother considers himself Nigerian, but I'm
Yeah.
from Enfield. And I was like, yeah, you are. And then, you know, boys are Irish, and, you know, all these things. And we were just having this really, really amazing conversation where kids felt safe in the classroom to go. And then another kid's like, well, yeah, you are British, mate, you are.
Yeah.
And I was saying, this is the point, right? This is the whole point of this thing, is that being British is whatever you make it, right?
Yeah.
So being British to me, you know, I have people say that I'm from Yorkshire, and I don't feel like, you know, my accent's Yorkshire, but I did my GCSE, I did my A levels, I did uni, I didn't do any of them in Yorkshire, and
Yeah.
I get it put on me, right, because of my accent. And
Yeah. So it's exploring that Britishness through the
yeah,
curriculum.
and it was
Yeah.
amazing. And I've just found like I love curriculum design, and I love
Oh
it, and
yes,
I feel like
same.
I'm really getting into it. And I
What's your
think that's
favourite
what's my
scheme of
favorite school.
like scheme of work or inquiry that you can't wait to teach next year? Because I've seen you've written a blog post on key stage 3 planning, and I've seen you tweet a lot
Yeah, I've done
in
so
terms of
many in
your
the last kind
planning.
of 2 years. So
Yeah.
I did one this year that I've loved teaching, that I planned last year, and we're going to do some tweaks again. How far did Britain protect citizens in post-war Britain? So
Oh yeah. Oh, that's
how and
interesting.
it I had basically a bit of a misogynistic head of department last year,
Oh,
and
okay.
the only way I could get inclusivity into the curriculum was like twisting it to make it not sound like it was.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know, we're doing a post-war Britain, we're doing about kind of rights, and I really incorporated kind of Windrush and the Bristol bus boycotts, Notting Hill Carnival,
Yeah.
Notting Hill race rights. But I also did about women and the divorce rates, and how, you know, until 1965 women couldn't get the pill if they
Yeah.
were unmarried. And it really, the year nines were like, what? Like,
Yeah.
but what? Surely it's unmarried women that need to have the pill. And we were having this really cool conversation. So that's one I've enjoyed this year. But I've done like a local study, and that was really fun. Silk Roads I've just finished planning, which I'm so excited to teach.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing I want to do a Mansa Musa, I want to do Olasuga. I've got so many that I'm still in the works. They're still in
Yeah.
the works, but I think Silk Roads would be a really good one. I think we're really trying to teach the top with it, and, you know, not. I've been concerned about year 7 is that actually some primary schools teach history so brilliantly that it's
Yeah.
been like
Some
a bit
little
of
to
a.
none. Yeah.
So I want to go in like hard and be like, you know, I want them to have their minds blown in like week 1 of history, being like, this is a map of the world. but this is not like, you think Britain's always been this amazing thing at the centre of the world, but actually, did you know that that isn't what was at the centre of the world, and we're going to
Oh,
look at
that's
all
so
the other
true.
places. And I just want them to see history that's bigger than the island that they live in / maybe born in / emigrated to. And but that's what's getting me up in the morning, right? That's what's
Yeah.
it's
Wow.
finding that. So for you, that for some people that's not it, right? For some people it's going to be pastoral, maybe kind of aspiring to be head of year and kind of going down the pastoral route, or maybe actually being a form tutor is what you kind of live and breathe, and do that and
Yeah.
put all your energy into that. Or maybe it's finally getting to teach A level, so like make that your effort to kind of get your subject knowledge
Yeah.
up to teach A level. Like, I think this profession is a vocation, and I think anyone that says it's not, I just don't see how you can not, how it can't be. Like, it is
Wow.
maybe when you are 20 year, maybe when you've been doing it for a long time and you can, like, I don't feel comfortable yet. I feel like I'm still having to learn so much. Maybe there's a point when it is just a job, but
Yeah.
I feel like at the moment it isn't. And I think if I didn't love it and I didn't have opportunities and I wasn't excited about it, I'd really
Yeah.
struggle.
Oh,
And that's what gets me through my like tougher times.
thank you so much, Sophie and Tony, because we've only got 4 minutes. I do want to give you both the opportunity to leave, your final remarks. It could be on anything. And I think this is, in a long time, we've actually got about 80 people listening, it says on my desktop. So
Wow.
this is the largest live listens that I've had in quite some time, and that's due to quality guests. So
Amazing.
thank you. So I'll start off with you, Sophie, in terms of, you've spoken a lot about rejection, overcoming that, and performing, literally, because our job is a performance day in and day out, despite what we're going through. Because for some people, it could be family issues, their children, it could be going through mental health, could be going through relationship crisis, it could be it could be anything, really and truly.
It is
So
literally anything.
yeah, if you could, just give your final kind of advice to help those teachers going through a difficult situation, what would you say to help them overcome?
I would say share as much as you can. I've really relied on my like department massively this year, my like SOT as well, and people, and even Twitter. Like, I find just sharing. I know not everyone will want to share so openly as I do, but
Yeah.
finding someone that you can share with, whether it's family, whether it's friends, sometimes it is strangers. DM me, like I will talk to anyone. Like, they know that people that have DM me, like everyone gets a reply. Like, if you want to talk to someone that's a stranger, talk to a stranger. Sometimes that's easier. But talk to someone and also find what's passionate, what you find, like what you love about teaching, and just kind of outside of school, if it's stuff outside of school that you're struggling with.
I love that. Thank you so much, Sophie. And if you do, if I would recommend you to read Sophie's blogs if you haven't, and get in contact with her. Her DMs are always open, and her is, I'm just getting it up quickly, at
Miss Hudson
Hist. Yeah, so at Miss Hudson Hist. So please do give her a follow. She's very inspirational to follow. So thank you, Sophie. And then Tony, what final remarks do you want to leave with people? So Sophie's put her at in the chat, and Iram said never lose hope. So you've inspired someone, Sophie. Yeah, so Tony, is there any final remarks you want to give those in leadership, or advice for those aspiring to become leaders?
Yeah, I can say that I haven't already said, but I just picking up what Sophie said, it's teaching is a performance, and the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. And if you're having a difficult time outside of school, I think the best thing you can do is be, as Sophie said, talk to someone in school and then concentrate on your teaching, because often there's nothing you can do with what's going on outside of school, but you can control your classroom. And you can get a feeling of satisfaction from one thing, and that helps you reduce your anxiety. Because I remember,
True.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, my brother passed away a couple of years ago. He went through quite a long period with cancer treatment, and
sorry to hear that.
No. But teaching was the thing that kept me, going through that, because I could go in, I could give my all to my classes. I probably over taught, if you know what I mean. I was
I do
2
that.
on it. I was like, of course, sir, you've had far too many coffees already this morning. And I'd wink at them and go, no, I'm a chemistry teacher, it's class A drugs. But I think it is
Yeah.
important, and that gives you that, just it tires you out, and it allows your brain to do something else. Other than if you're just sitting there worrying about something, your brain
I
just
love
goes
that,
in this
yeah.
massive spiral, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so true. Oh, thank you guys. You've been top guests. You've got my live viewers increasing again. So yeah, thank you. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I've learned lots. I've always said that this Monday show has been great CPD for myself. I always learned so much. So I really do want to thank you, Sophie, and you, Tony, for spending your Monday evening talking to me and helping our listeners. And thank you to all those that have listened. So thank you all so much, and I hope you have a lovely evening.
Thank you,
Bye,
Emily.
thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.